What's going on, guys? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch. Today we're talking about Zarya, who's a hero that's been discussed in the community recently, and some of our fans asked us to weigh in on the subject. It seems the conversation stemmed from a forum post that I'll link in the description. Jeff Kaplan, the game director, even weighed in. The opinions of the community are vastly divided. At lower skill tiers, she's deemed useless, and at the pro level, she's seen almost every game. What exactly do I think the problem is with this? Nothing! As far as I'm concerned, Zarya is a perfectly designed hero, not overpowered at all. Honestly, we should never balance an entire hero based upon the lowest levels of play anyway, because bottom-up balancing breaks any competitiveness for everybody else. Instead, on this channel, we like to view characters based on their competent usage. Not necessarily pro, but how a hero performs when played properly, even if not expertly. In that setting, Zarya is a perfect Overwatch hero, requiring teamwork to be actualized and setting up fun gameplay dynamics for the other team to overcome. Aha, FREEDO! Even if she's good for the game, what if every pro team has to use her? Doesn't that mean she's overpowered? Well, not exactly. The metrics of usage and win rate have always felt about as useless as the gold medals Overwatch gives you. They don't tell you the entire story. Symmetra has a great win rate, yet is an utterly useless hero versus a competent team, meaning that win rate isn't everything. And as for usage, the prevalence of a hero tells more about the state of the metagame, not necessarily the raw value of a given hero. A lot of people ask in our comment sections, what is a metagame? In short, a metagame is a game within the game. If Overwatch is a game about killing the enemy and capping the objective, the metagame of Overwatch is the rock-paper decisions battle of hero selection. With that being the case, we see the rise and fall of heroes based upon what is at the top of the meta right now. When Widow and McCree both got nerfed, Pharah was deemed the best DPS in the game, and it made Soldier viable. Roadhog was useless when Zen had an insane Discord orb, but when he's nerfed and Ana's better, the triple tank composition emerges, with Roadhog as the definitive DPS whenever Ryan isn't nanoed. And be sure to notice that these heroes that emerge as being better or worse oftentimes don't come as a result of anything changing with their kit, but instead, the kits of the characters that directly fight against them or with them, to counter them out of the meta or to buff them into it. The metagame goes around and around in circles, creating counterplay, and hopefully, in the most ideal state, multiple strategies would be viable, not just a few select heroes being vital to winning. And honestly, I don't think we're far off that point. The Overwatch Open saw quite a few more heroes getting picked, even if the usage rates might not pan out entirely evenly. The truth of the matter is, we saw at the Overwatch Open, the most valuable ability was Nano due to how often you can get it. The entire game is centered around getting more usage out of Nano Boost than the other team, and that dictates what characters are picked. Ana needs teammates with large hero pools to milk ult charge off of, making about every comp have at least 2 tanks, and to deal with those tanks, most teams pick their DPS to be Reaper, who shreds them, and Tracer, who can get past them to harass the Ana. And big props to Soon, who kept Chipsogen on his back the entire grand final, making an easy 3-1 victory for them. But what does this have to do with Zarya? Well, I'll tell you. Zarya's bubbles are most effective when used at close range. If you're Reaper and you get into close range laying down hot lead into the enemy, they're going to want to stun you or focus fire you before they get melted. But if a Zarya pops a bubble on you at the perfect time, they're forced to make a decision. Wait 2 seconds for the bubble to expire, likely dying by that time, or break the bubble, charging Zarya just to have a chance to survive. And for that reason alone, Zarya is seeing near 100% usage at the top levels of play. Even before this meta, Zarya saw quite a bit of usage just based on how good bubbles can be, even if you just put it on Winston, who wants to jump into the enemy team, and the fact that her ultimate is one of the best in the game. But Zarya bubbles aren't perfect in every situation. The place where they aren't as good are in long-range fights. Do you remember Widowmaker? Yeah, I forgot she existed too. Well, if you're peeking into a Widow's effective range and a bubble pops, she can easily wait it out without being in immediate danger, and that's the key. Ranged characters like Widow and Soldier aren't really viable in this meta for one reason or another, making the majority of the fighting at close range, where the bubbles see almost guaranteed value. If there was more ranged DPS being viable right now that stretched the battlefield, Zarya would see less play. So it stands to reason, if other changes occur, we may see a dip in Zarya's usage. Although it won't be by a lot, She's always been pretty good. My point just is the reason she's falling into the overused quote-unquote category is due to how the rest of the meta is playing. And there not really being enough options at that off-tank role. D.Va doesn't cut it because she's better at flying into a ranged engagement, bringing her shotguns to the fight, and Roadhog's output value is more similar to like a McCree, based purely upon skill shots, making him much more unreliable. He got a lot of usage too recently, but as he needs supporting himself, Hog sees the most usage in triple tank, where he has tanks around him to actually tank for him. I'm not bringing up the conversation again, don't worry, but the point still stands. We see Zarya picked more than Roadhog because you fill in the sentence here. Anyway, despite all this explanation, another reason I think looking purely at usage statistics is bad is that it doesn't explain the quality of the game. Is Zarya being in every pro game make the gameplay worse? I'd argue no. I'd argue that she's being used so much due to other problems in the meta to begin with, but regardless, she doesn't make the gameplay badly at all. And that's the defining feature for me when evaluating a hero's place in the meta. Not how much the character's picked, but what value do they bring to the game. For instance, I don't mind hardly ever seeing Torb picked at the highest levels of play. In a cutesy pocket strat, maybe. We've seen Nip pick him as their single DPS in their triple tank dual support lineup, flexing out Zappis from Zenyatta to a DPS now and again. But that's it, okay? We don't need to get too crazy with the Torb. I don't think there's much point to buff Torb to be a defining feature of the top-level pro metagame. Zarya, on the other hand, even if she's used over half the time, all the time, I'm pretty happy, because she plays well and enhances the game and competitiveness, as far as I'm concerned, and that's a more reasonable goal than expecting equal usage among all 22 heroes, which is an ideal that is impossible anyway because you'll never be able to balance the value output potential across all skill tiers. All in all, I think Zarya is fine, and I think we should use this discussion as a reminder that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. We all have preferences on how we'd like the meta to look, but we can't look down on characters that are performing perfectly as far as gameplay is concerned simply because they're being used more often. Because if we do, we could potentially break a good thing and get something worse in its place. I think that's what will happen. Enough with the nerfs. We need buffs. That's what I say. FREEDO 2016. You could give a little buff to Widow. You could give a little buff to D.Va. Make a few changes to Junkrat here and there. We'll get there, bit by bit. But it's not done by making heroes that are playing well play worse. Well, that's been it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button. It really does help us out. Oh, and I wanted to take this time out to tell you that I relaunched my own personal channel, and I'm dedicating it to talking about Overwatch esports. So if you're a fan of the comp scene, or simply want to hear me talk more about high-level Overwatch, click the link in the description or the annotation on the end card of this video. You'll see my ugly face, but don't be frightened. It's not a Halloween mask. That's how I actually look. Click my face and you'll go to my channel. It's just gotten off the ground again. There's only a few videos currently, but if enough of you enjoy that content, I definitely can make more. I love Overwatch and watch all the pro games anyway, and would love to make a lot of content about it if you're interested. Also, check out our Discord server. Thousands of gamers have teamed up on there. Never play in solo queue hell ever again. That's linked in the description. Follow us on Twitter at YourOverwatchYT for stream updates, announcements, and cool clips from our gameplay experiences. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.